All right, welcome everyone to we're going to talk about better paths to critical thinking, how we can change our lives through critical thinking. I'm so happy for everyone who is here live today. Hello to everyone on the recording. I did hear from some of you who wanted to sign up but couldn't make it live. So those of you who could not make it live, hopefully you're getting some value out of the recording. Those of you who are here today, make sure you ask questions. Drop it in the chat. If you have a question, drop it in the chat, right? Because if there's literally, you hear the old cliche, there's no dumb question. There really is no dumb question. If you have a question, you have a question, ask it. Because what are the chances, right, that somebody else has the same question and they were afraid to ask it, or somebody who wasn't here today, who's watching the recording couldn't ask it. So you have a question, ask it. You are adding value by asking questions. So make sure you drop all that in the chat. All right. So what I want to hear from you guys first in the chat is when you hear the term critical thinking, what comes to your mind? Literally just what comes to your mind. There's no right or wrong answers here. What comes to your mind? What do you think it is? And what do you feel about it? When you hear the terms critical thinking, I'd love to hear that from all of you. And I have to do a little bit of, sorry. Just making sure we're all muted. You guys can unmute yourselves if you come on, but I'm just going to make sure you're muted for now. All right. Bob, school. Like, yeah. Okay. Bob, I love it when you come on these because you're honest. School. Joy, clarity and discernment. I love that. Laura, real fact checking the things you read, right? Ambrose, looking at all the angles. Absolutely looking at all the angles, right? There's no one right way to view everything. Tax time. Oh, Charlie, yeah. Well, you're talking to a tax lawyer, right? I'm a longtime tax lawyer, and I became a tax lawyer because I love critical thinking, and tax law is very logical. Problem solving. Sam, absolutely problem solving for sure. And we're going to talk a lot about problem solving. And Renee, analytical, active thinking, thinking it through, analysis. What are your sources? Right, Billy? Yeah. Find a reputable, confirmable source. Very good, Laura. Analytical. Awesome. Very good. Right. A lot of us are on the same page here, right? We kind of have the same idea on what critical thinking means, and that's cool. Now, I'm wondering if, even though we may have different ideas on what critical thinking means, maybe widely different ideas, maybe slightly different ideas, can we all agree on a few basic things? Let's see if we can agree on these things. Would you guys agree that there's a lot of chaos and change in the world? Drop in the chat. What do you guys think? Is there some chaos and change in the world? Is there a lot happening? I mean, there's a war in Ukraine. We are possibly on the verge of all-out war in the Middle East. China's threatening to invade Taiwan. You guys may or may not have noticed that politics is a little bit nuts right now, right? Yeah, I think we all kind of see that. Can we agree maybe that division and polarization in society are a real problem right now? What do you guys think? Can you drop it in the chat? Let me know. Are division and polarization a real problem right now? Right? People disagree on stuff. We're having a hard time communicating about it. What do you guys think? Boy, lots of yeses, right? It's funny. I asked this question and I never hear a no to this question. It's crazy, right? And some of this is a little bit of a recency bias, and we tend to think of the good old days when things were not as bad. At the same time, maybe this is just always a problem. Maybe it's a problem today. Maybe it's a problem 20 years ago, 40 years ago, 60 years ago, right? Maybe it's a constant problem, and that's okay if it's a constant problem. What else? Can we agree that friends and family have a hard time communicating about important issues? Can you guys agree with that? Do we agree? Have you seen relationships damaged? Have you seen fights at Thanksgiving, fights at the bar, right? Fights at the grocery store, right? Among people who like each other and love each other and care about each other. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, yep, yes, yeah. Right. I'd say we're seeing that. It's true. Again, it feels true. Now, when something feels true, it isn't always true, but it's true to us. If it feels true to you, it's true to you. Okay. Now, maybe given these problems in the world, would you guys like to learn a mode of thinking that can help with this? Would you like to learn a mode of thinking that makes sense of the chaos and change and gives you peace? A holistic mode of thinking that no matter what change and what chaos and what division and what polarization we see, would you guys like a mode of thinking that makes some sense of that? Yeah? Sounds good. I mean, who wouldn't want that, right? Billy says for sure. Yes, please, says Kristen. Would you guys like a mode of thinking that gives you confidence even when you don't understand things and don't know things? Wouldn't it be great to have that confidence even if you don't understand and don't know? How awesome would that be? Would you guys like that? Yeah? See some smiley faces? Awesome. Ambrose, yeah, some faith. Sure. Would you like a mode of thinking that gives you a context for solving any problem? Doesn't matter what the problem is. Problems for where you have context, no context. Would you like a mode of thinking that gives you guys context for solving any sort of problems? Would that be cool? Yeah. Some thumbs up, some yeses. Wow. Yeah. It is a wow. That's the cool thing about what we teach here. It's a bit of a wow, Joy. It's a bit of a oh my gosh. And we're going to talk about something called the outside context problem, which you guys might find interesting. Would you like a mode of thinking that shows you how to handle disagreement without feeling under attack? When you guys sometimes disagree with folks, do you feel under attack? Wouldn't you like to handle that disagreement without attacking other people and without feeling under attack yourself? Would that be handy? What do you think? Yeah, absolutely. Yes, please. Definitely. Let's do it. Right? All right. Very good. All right. So we're on the same page. Are we on the same page? Can I say yeah? Type same page in the chat if you guys think we're on the same page right now. I'd like to see you guys type same page in the chat. Let's make sure we're on the same page here. Ah, very good. Lots of us on the same page. Same page. Let's do it. All right. We're on the same page. Because you know what? This is a great thing about the values-based critical thinking I teach. If we're not on the same page, it's hard to get anywhere. If we are on the same page, we can do anything together. We can do anything. Right? Even if we disagree on all kinds of stuff, religion and politics, if we're on the same page on what we want to accomplish, we can do anything. All right, so a little bit. A lot of you are familiar to me. Some of you are new, right? So my name is Ian Foster. I'm an attorney. I've experience in both government and private practice. I've been practicing for 25 years, my first 18 years in government. My current specialization full-time is educating and empowering entrepreneurs in the law, taxes, and critical thinking. I have over my career a lot of training in logic and critical thinking. I have an undergraduate degrees in both engineering and political science, which are both pretty logical, critical thinking based degrees. I scored the 98th percentile in the LSAT, the law school test, which is essentially just an all-day logic test. Like if you've ever done logic problems, this is just spending all day doing nothing but logic problems. I went to a law school that taught values-based critical thinking. I went to UC Davis. Now, have any of you heard if you've seen the Paper Chase or other law school related movies, maybe you've heard of the whole thing where you show up on the first day and they say, look to your left, look to your right. Of the three of you, only one of you are going to graduate. And you guys are a competition. You guys heard about that? See a bunch of nodding heads, yeah. At my law school in UC Davis, you know what they did on the very first day? They said, look to your left and look to your right. And they said, all three of you are here because you made it through our process and we want all three of you to graduate and you need to make best friends so you can help each other get through this process together and all of you graduate and be successful. How great is that? So I knew literally in the first 5 minutes that I was at the right place, right? Because it was values-based, not competition-based. So I have a lot of career legal training in tax and finance, and I've been an enthusiastic amateur in studying and teaching values-based critical thinking. I'm not an actual PhD in philosophy. I haven't taught logic courses in college, but I've taught a lot of informal courses, kind of like we do today. So what are we going to do today? We're going to talk about 3 paths that we can improve our critical thinking, because I want to help you guys make better sense of a chaotic world. We're going to understand the difference between skepticism and cynicism. Have you guys heard of those terms? Skepticism and cynicism? You know what's cool is it turns out they don't mean the same thing. They mean different things. And we're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about drawing power from saying, I don't know, and not knowing, and how awesome that can be to not know things. We're going to talk about how to handle what we call the outside context problem. You guys haven't heard of that before. You may recognize some examples when we talk about it. And we're going to talk about freeing our identities from our beliefs so we can stay peaceful even when there's disagreement. Do you guys sometimes get your identities wrapped up in the things you believe? I believe X, that means I am X. Maybe your identities and your beliefs are not the same thing and don't have to be the same thing. And we can disconnect those two things. Kristen, yeah, probably more than you realize. I find it all the time, Kristen, and I'm someone who's really daily conscious, and I still find myself mixing those up. I get it. Right. All right. Plus, of course, we're going to have a unique opportunity to learn a holistic mode of thought that makes sense of the world, helps you communicate better, and creates a community of heart-centered change makers together. And this week only, because the formal launch, you guys are all here early. You guys are the early birds, right? The formal launch is not till next month. So the early birds who are interested today can save $1,400, because I wanted to give a early bird chance to a lot of people who are longtime followers of me and people on my list. Whoops, sorry. All right, so skepticism versus cynicism. We tend to use these terms interchangeably. I'm sure you guys have heard both of these terms before. And maybe sometimes we use them interchangeably, but they don't actually mean the same thing. So here's what I mean when I say skepticism. And when I talk about definitions in my critical thinking webinars and classes, I tend to use things in a very functional definition. This may not be the dictionary definition, and that's okay. This may not be the dictionary definition, but it's a functional definition in terms of how we use it in daily life. So when I say skepticism, I simply mean that we want to believe more true things and fewer false things. That's all I mean, right? We are all susceptible to false beliefs and manipulation and being tricked. Would you guys prefer it? Let me know. Would you prefer it if you could believe more true things and fewer false things? Would that be good? Would you rather that? All things considered in a vacuum, right? Would you rather believe more true things and fewer false things? For sure. Very good. And when I say cynicism, okay, now there's a cat. Does that look like a cynical kitty cat to you guys? What do you think? Is that a cynical kitty? I have 7 cats at home, and several of them are quite cynical. That looks like a cynical kitty cat to me. Right? When I say cynicism, I mean a mistrust or distrust of authority. Do you see how that differs from the prior definition? Skepticism is just wanting to believe more true things and fewer false things. Cynicism is a mistrust or distrust of authority, where you automatically take a position of saying, I agree with that person or I do not agree with that person based on some sort of prior preconceived notion. That's cynicism, right? When we talk about being cynical in politics, it's, well, all politicians are liars. Well, are all of them liars all the time? Or do some of them say true things some of the time? So what would you guys rather be? Would you rather be skeptical? Let me know in chat. Would you rather be skeptical where you're thoughtful and just sorting out truth from fiction? Or would you rather be cynical where you're immediately assuming something is right or wrong? What would you guys rather be, skeptical or cynical? Very good. I see a lot of skepticals, right? That's all skeptical means, is you're just trying to sort truth from fiction. That's it. Now, how do we do that? That's the big question, right? Okay, great. I'd love to be skeptical. How do I do that? So if skepticism just means wanting to believe more true things and fewer false things, which that's what we call healthy critical thinking, there are ways to go about doing that as a practical matter. There's a whole lot of things. And in fact, in the course that we're going to be talking about, that's basically, we have tons of tips and instruction on how to do that. But I want to give you the foundation for how to be a skeptical person. You start with, I don't know, as your default position. Your default position on every question is, I don't know. If somebody tells you, it says to you, do you think X is true or false? Your answer should be, I don't know. That's your default position on everything. I don't know. I don't know if it's true or false. I don't know. Because you don't have to know. You start with, I don't know. And then you take a position on that issue only when you see convincing evidence. You start with, I don't know, and you wait for the evidence. Because here's the thing. If I tell you X is true, it's not your job to believe X is true. And it's not your job to believe X is false. Your only job is to say, well, shit, I don't know. Hey, Ian, why don't you give me some evidence? You're the one telling me it's true. Give me some evidence to show me it's true. So start with, I don't know, on everything you do. And then you don't make up your mind until you see convincing evidence. That makes sense? Can you already see how that's a position that will help you better sort truth from falsehoods, as opposed to immediately assuming one or the other? Now, can it be difficult? What do you guys think? Can it be difficult to say the words, I don't know, sometimes? You guys sometimes have a hard time doing that? Yeah. See some yeses, see some kind of shruggings and shaking, and yeah, I think so, right? Why is that, right? So as a kid, this goes back to our childhoods. All of us, this goes back to our childhood traumas. What happened when you said, I don't know, when you were a childhood? Let me know in the chat. I'd love to hear. Was it a positive experience, a negative experience? Did people make fun of you? Did they bully you? Did they tell you you were stupid? What happened as a child when you said, I don't know? I'd love to hear it. Oh, the critics belittled. Oh, Laura, being accused of being lazy or excuses. Adonis is all of the above. Your mom would tell you to figure it out. Made you feel stupid. Wishful thinking. Not encouraged, right? So when we were kids, especially those of us who grew up in Western education systems, were the words I don't know encouraged or discouraged? What do you think? Were they encouraged or discouraged? What do you think? Discouraged, yeah, for sure. So now that's ingrained into us from when we were kids. So now when we're adults, we still, right? Oh, Laura, yeah, you have to take a position. Yeah. Now, even though we're adults, years and years later, we're afraid to say, I don't know. Because that childhood trauma, the 5-year-old kid inside of us still feels afraid of saying that, right? But the problem is when you say you know something and you take a position, you're stuck there. If somebody asks you a question and you immediately have an answer and take a position on that question, do you maybe feel like you're stuck on that answer? Is it hard to get off that answer? What do you think? You can see how that is? Yeah. Hard to get off that answer. But what if instead of feeling embarrassed or ashamed or dumb, what if we could draw power from not knowing? Because when you quote know something, when you are sure of something, you're stuck. When I'm sure X is true, then I'm going to hold on to X is true, and it's real hard to get me off of that. Right? Because who wants to feel dumb? Who wants to feel like they're wrong? On the other hand, if we say I don't know, then the choice is ours. If I say I don't know, the choice is mine. And the power is in my hands to decide what direction I want to take. Yeah, being accused of wishy-washy. Yeah. Now, some of you know, as an attorney, what are my most common answers? My longtime clients who are in here, what are my most common answers as a lawyer when you ask me questions? Right? What are the most common answers I give to every question you guys ask? I know some of you have been around me for a while. They're generally not yes and no. Right there. Yep. There you go, Billy. It depends. It's complicated. Yeah. Or I don't know, because I don't know. And you know what? Even though people hire me, Bob, yeah, you've heard me before. I don't know. Even though people hire me to know, I don't know. And that's okay. I don't have to know, because you know what? I can figure it out. I don't have to know everything, even as the quote unquote expert. So I want us all to take a deep breath. I want you guys to type I don't know in the chat. I want you to take a deep breath. I want you to feel the power of it. I want you to feel how amazing it can be to free yourself of needing to know things, free yourself of society forcing you into a box, forcing you into positions you don't want to take, right? Do you guys feel forced into that sometimes? Type I don't know in the chat. Let's see it. Draw power from that. You guys feel it? Let me know. Type power. If you feel the power of saying I don't know, type power into the chat. Awesome. Power, 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 power. Good. I want to see you guys feel that power. Now, relief. Yeah, Charlie, relief. Power X2. Yeah. Power. You guys feel better about saying I don't know now? Right? Do you feel the difference about saying I don't know? This is not the same feeling. When you're a kid, when you're 5 years old, you can't say I don't know because you get in trouble. But now you're grown up, you have power, you have agency, you can decide for yourself. You guys feel that difference? Yeah, freedom from being railroaded. I love that, Laura. That's awesome. Clarity. Yeah. Power, clarity, freedom. That's what you get from saying, I don't know. And now the next time anybody asks you a question, and if you don't immediately have personal direct knowledge of the answer, what are you guys going to say? What are you guys going to say? Next time somebody asks you a question, if you don't have immediate direct knowledge, what are you going to say? Yeah, you're going to say, I don't know. Right? For sure. Rula, hey, yeah, I'd love to hear what your question is.
The thing that I found in many situations when I say I don't know, because I really don't know,
Mm-hmm.
I have then had the experience of them coming back and saying, you do too know. Why aren't you saying it? You do too know. And they'll just throw that at
Yeah.
me until it's making me back into a corner. And even I really don't know. And I have no confidence in the fact I don't have no. So anyway, how's the
Yeah.
easiest way to deal with that?
No, I love it. And I love that you brought that up, right? Because you do get people say, yes, you do know, or pretend you do know, or blah, blah. But the thing is, if you don't know, you don't. And that's great. And you don't have to pretend you don't know. And when they try to push you in a position of taking a position, who does that say more about, you or them?
Actually, them.
Them. It says more about them, right? And their lack of confidence. And that's okay. They're not bad people. You don't hate them, right?
Mhm.
That's their own trauma. And that's because they haven't learned the power of I don't know yet.
Mhm.
And now maybe you're in a position to help them learn that power of I don't know.
Good point.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thank you, Rula. I love that you brought that up. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So my upcoming course, we have a lot of tips on how to think skeptically and feel free and empowered through the proper skepticism. Anne in New Mexico, who took it, Ian's improved my quality of life by giving me a new way of interacting with information. I feel free and empowered. That's the key part, right? She feels free and empowered to do her own research and make up her own mind and no longer feel like a victim of the media ecosystem. Do you guys see how that might sink in, right? We live in this media ecosystem where sometimes we feel like I have no agency and no access and no knowledge, right? That's okay if you're willing to start with I don't know. So let's talk about the outside context problem. So the outside context problem, or I call this the OCP in the language of critical thinking, the OCP, the outside context problem. This is when we encounter a situation for which we have little or no context. So we have a hard time understanding and dealing with what's happening. So that here's sort of the classic example of the OCP. There's a native tribe living peacefully on a beautiful, lush, fertile island. They've made peace on their island. Everyone has plenty of food and shelter. There's no disease. There's no war. Everybody's living happily, right? What happens next? You guys guess what happens next? Yeah, if you've studied any world history, what happens next? Right? One day, the tribe sees an iron-hulled ship approaching on the horizon. That picture, for military history buffs, that's the HMS Hood, for whatever it's worth, right? Billy knows what I mean, the HMS Hood, before she sank. Right? So you see an iron-hulled ship approaching on the horizon. It's full of strange men. They speak a strange language. They have strange diseases. They have weapons of incomprehensible power you can't even imagine. This is the classic example of an outside context problem. The peaceful, abundant tribe on that island has no context for something like this, right? Now, if you're part of that tribe on that island, how do you react to seeing that ship? I'm curious, what do you guys think? Or do you react at all? I'm curious, drop it in. How do you react, or do you react at all? What do you think? Fear, for sure, Susan. Yeah. Donna, excitement. Yeah, that could be. You could be afraid. You could be excited. Curiosity. So in the classic OCP, you know, that you could have that fear, confusion, curiosity, some sort of desperation to make sense of it. Yeah, Laura Diplomatic. Yeah, Billy, you're right. Legend has it that some natives won't even see it. Right? Maybe you ignore it. Maybe your brain doesn't even see that battleship out there because your brain has no context for it and can't place it in the reality in which you live. Right? And different people are going to do it together or do it differently. So you ignore it, you fear it, you get excited, you're curious, you try to make sense. Can you see how maybe your brain starts coming up with weird conspiratorial explanations to explain it? Right? Because maybe if you're desperate to make sense of things and you can't make sense of it, so what does your brain do? Starts making connections that maybe are there, maybe are not. Yeah. That's the outside context problem. Now I'm curious, can you guys think of any outside context problems that our society has encountered in the last 3-4 decades? Curious to know what you guys think. Now, a true total outside context problem, a true total complete outside context problem tends to be the end of the society. There's a saying that when a society encounters an outside context problem, it's like a sentence encountering a period. It's over, right? But we have had some perhaps minor outside context problems that have caused disruption to society. What do you guys think we've encountered in the last couple decades? Yeah, UFOs, aliens. What else do you think? Global warming? Yeah. What are some other sort of minor outside context problems? Obviously, they have not ended society because we're still here talking about it. COVID, for sure, Kristen. COVID, absolutely. What about yeah, illegal aliens, right? So like immigration on a mass scale in different places. Mm-hmm. What about 9/11 in North America? Was that an OCP? Was 9/11 an outside context problem? What do you guys think? Yeah. Censorship? Yeah, definitely censorship. Censorship slash cancel culture, whatever you want to call it, right, Lauren? Mm-hmm. Things for which we lack some context and we have a hard time. Authoritarianism in some countries. Yeah, Bob, the internet and AI. Do you guys think AI is a little bit of an OCP right now? Disruptive in society? What else? Have you guys seen the movie Contact with Jodie Foster? The movie Contact, was that an outside context problem maybe they encountered there? Yeah. Some of you have seen that. What else? Any other good movies with outside context problems? The Matrix, maybe, right? If you're the one who wakes up in the disgusting vat of goo and gets flushed out, is that outside of your context? Yeah. Or there's some other day one. Yeah, new technology, Charlie, for sure, right? Technology is advancing very fast. What do I always say? Right. I'm always thinking, shoot, I need help with tech. What do I need? I need a 6-year-old. I need some 6-year-old kid to help me with the tech problems I'm having. Joy, the Wizard of Oz. I had not thought of that at all, Joy. That's a great example. The Wizard of Oz is outside context problem for sure. Yeah. So you guys can see how this becomes an issue. Now, when society encounters these OCPs, do we all react as a society as a whole? Do we act with calm, rational thought and behavior and love and empathy? Is that how we react? Or do we tend to react with division and polarization and fear of denial? Yeah, right. You guys see it, right? That's why the outside context problem is so big. Pick sides. Yeah. No love and rational thought. Goes out of its mind, Susan. Yeah, we got out of our minds. Yeah. Because we lack context. We start looking for explanations. We start looking to blame. We start looking for conspiracies. All this good stuff. Charlie, yeah, actually, War of the Worlds is another good example of OCP. Yeah. Ambrose, yeah, skepticism. If we do skepticism the way I teach it, where we start with I don't know and then look for evidence and stay calm, would be a little bit more helpful, maybe. So, would you guys rather you had a mode of thought that helped you react to an outside context problem with calm, empowered confidence? Would that be better? If you had a mode of thought that worked properly regardless of the context, so you don't even need context because you know the mode of thought works. That'd be better. Yeah, I think we agree. Ambrose, a baseline. That's right. I love that. That's a great term, Ambrose. Thank you. Having a baseline for it. Baseline for how we think, no matter what the context is. So in this course, we're going to train ourselves to think our way through any context. We're going to have power over any situation. We're going to have agency over any situation because the way we're learning to think works no matter what the context is. So Amy in New South Wales, she's a big coach in Australia who's taken the course a few times. Right from the first week, this course dramatically changed my business by completely transforming how I approach my clients. Ian taught me an insightful and compassionate approach to challenge my clients to be their best selves in any situation opening up a world of possibilities. The way Ian teaches cause and effect in this course should be an essential part of everyone's education. All right, let's talk about beliefs and identities. As a human, it's very natural to let your beliefs define your identity. It's very natural to let your beliefs define who you are. And I see a lot of nodding heads. I think you kind of get that intuitively, right? That creates problems because then what happens when the belief is being challenged? If our belief is our identity, when the belief is challenged, our subconscious mind takes it as an attack, right? What happens when we feel attacked and threatened? Let me know in the chat. When you guys feel attacked or threatened, where does your subconscious mind take you? Is it a good place? Yeah, lots of defensive, defending, withdrawal, fear, panic. What are the 3 F's, right? The shutting down, you're right. Fight, flight, or freeze, absolutely. Yeah, that's where we go when we feel attacked. We shut down, we panic, fight, flight, or freeze. So that means even if we have some belief, like let's say my belief is that the marginal tax rates on the top 1% should be increased by 2%. If I take that belief into my identity, then when someone attacks that belief, I go into fight, flight, or freeze. Now, if I'm in fight, flight, or freeze, if I'm in shutdown, if I'm in pure fear or panic, am I able to have a rational discussion? What do you think? Yeah, no way. No, lizard brain. Yeah, you're right, Laura. Yeah, no way. So let's look at some examples. I want you to see the difference between these statements, right? So let's say that we have right. So that in the United States, in the early years of the United States, we actually had a Federalist Party. That was George Washington's political party, right? So let's say I have a belief. I agree with most of the policies of the Federalist Party. More of a belief statement versus an identity statement. I am a Federalist. Do you guys see the difference between those statements? Which statement is heavier? Which one is weightier? The I agree or I am. Which statement carries more weight and holds me down and is harder to get out of? Yeah, the I am. You guys feel that? There's a similar example. Here's the belief. I think equality is better for society. Maybe some of us agree with that, right? Versus an identity statement. I am an equality activist. Which statement is heavier and weightier and harder to get away from? What do you guys think? I am. Feel how the identity is so much heavier and you get stuck in it? Which statement is it, the I believe or the I am? Which statement is more likely to leave you stuck and feeling attacked and not able to change your mind? Yeah, the I ams, the identities. You guys see that? Yeah, Donna, beliefs can change. Identity is very hard to change. So we have to learn to separate our identities from our beliefs. Does that make sense? Would you guys like to be able to separate your identities from your beliefs? Do you see how that would be useful? Yeah. See a lot of yeses. A lot of nodding heads. You want to have that freedom to change, to find your own values, to figure out what those values are, to choose them for yourselves and not be stuck in the identities that society is imposing on you, that family is imposing on you, that friends are imposing on you. So Ruth in Switzerland, I loved how the course was about how using critical thinking to directly and consciously improve our communication, but even more, our understanding of ourselves and our own blind spots that influence how we see the world. And do you see how your identities might create blind spots that make it hard for you to change your mind when there's contrary evidence, change your mind when there's new information, think better, right? So what have we talked about today? We've learned to say, I don't know. We've learned to love, I don't know, and find power in that. Are you guys already starting to feel at least a little bit? It takes practice. But are you at least a little bit starting to feel some power in saying, I don't know, and seeing how you can draw power from that and how nobody gets to tell you that you have to know or have to take a position? Yeah. Are you seeing how it would be great to have a mode of thinking that helps you deal with a problem, even if it's outside your context, even if it's an outside context problem? Wouldn't you like a mode of thought that works in any context? It's pretty handy, I'll tell you. Would you like to be able to separate your beliefs from your identity so you're not stuck and you're free to change your mind and decide on your own values and what positions you want to take in the world? Wouldn't that be handy? Right? Freeing those two from each other. So, what are the real problems? Why should we learn to practice these principles? Are there real world problems we can deal with here? So, some real life problems, right? The inability to discuss important societal issues with one another, with our friends, family, strangers, you name it. We're not listening and we're not communicating with one another. Being out of alignment with our values. And part of that is knowing what our values are and how we do align with them. Being manipulated or subject to false beliefs. All of us are subject to manipulation and false beliefs to one extent or another by everything around us. Fractured and strained interpersonal relationships. Doesn't that suck? Doesn't that suck? Give me a big suck in the chat. Let's type in suck. If it sucks to have fractured and strained relationships with friends and family, type suck in the chat. It sucks, right? It's awful. Doesn't it just hit you right here in the chest? I mean, it sucks. Let's do something about that. Poor and unproductive business decisions. That's a real problem. A lot of us are entrepreneurs or want to be entrepreneurs. Not making sense of the world. The world seems confusing. It's chaotic. It's changing constantly. Except for especially for those of us who are getting a little bit middle-aged or older, I know who I am. You know who you are. Right? It's a crazy world. It's not the same as what I grew up in. Being unable to listen and communicate. Despair because we don't know what to do in these troubled times. Do you guys feel a little bit of despair sometimes? I'm not saying you have to be depressed and suicidal or everything, right? But like, do you feel a little despair sometimes? Looking around you in the world and thinking, oh my gosh. As a despair poster child. Yes, yep. I represent that, Mark. Yeah, I mean, come on. And talk about wasting energy. Wasting energy, think of when we're not being deliberate about what our own values are. Really getting down and thinking, what are the values that I want? Who am I fundamentally? What are my values? How do I show up authentically? And when my relationships are deteriorating because we don't understand one another, we don't understand one another's values, or we can't find the common values. Maybe we'd have common values, even if it seems like we're different, but we're not communicating. Think of the wasted energy, the wasted time. When we're agonizing over decisions, we're making avoidable mistakes. We're taking on false beliefs. And when you take on a false belief, here's a question for you guys. Is it easier to take on the false belief or get rid of the false belief? What do you think? Is it easier to take it on or get rid of it? Yeah, it's generally easier to take it on. Once you take it on, it's very hard to get rid of it. Even if it's totally provably false, it's very hard to get rid of it. Right? And then we're not in alignment with our values and who we want to be. We're not showing up authentically. So this is why we have a course. It's called Life's Problems Made Easy. We're going to awaken our geniuses and make a lot of sense of the world by using basic critical thinking principles. So this is a 10-week course. A few of you have been through the 6-week course before. It used to be 6 weeks. We've extended it to 10 weeks now because we just think it's too important. We want to form a stronger community and dig deeper into the material and really discuss real life issues together and get honest and authentic with one another. We're going to be honest and authentic in this course. So over the course of 10 weeks, we're going to rewire our brains for values-based critical thinking. Critical thinking with logic, evidence, skepticism, but based on your personal values so that you can make a difference. We're going to challenge ourselves. We're going to question our own knowledge and our own beliefs and really get in there and challenge and question ourselves. We're going to discover how empowered you can feel by saying, I don't know. And we practice that repeatedly in the course, is finding power in saying, I don't know. We're going to build and recognize powerful logical arguments, as well as rid ourselves of all the common reasoning errors and mistakes that are causing most of us to take on false beliefs when we don't need to be doing that. And we all do it, right? There's nothing special about me. I teach this stuff for a living, but do you think I make reasoning errors and take on false beliefs? All the time. All the time, right? Why? Why do I do that? Because I'm a human being who's not perfect. Yeah, Joy, you're right. I'm human. I'm human like everybody else, right? We all do it. It takes a conscious effort. Even for people like me who teach this for a living, it takes a conscious effort to rewire your brain all the time to think like this. We're going to start demanding high quality evidence to make up our minds. So we're not going to make up our minds based on crappy evidence that doesn't make any sense. We're going to start with I don't know, and we're going to take a position only when we find high quality evidence. And we'll learn what high quality evidence is. We're going to talk about our own blind spots and our own biases so that we can be better thinkers in any context. Here's the interesting question. Do you know what your own blind spots are? What do you guys think? Do you know what they are? Yeah, probably not. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Yeah, Joy, yeah, no, because they're blind spots. So you guys think you have blind spots you don't even know about? For sure. That's the whole point, right? So what's why it's a blind spot. You don't even know it's there. We're going to learn how to calmly listen and communicate with both strangers and loved ones on hot button issues, right? We're going to learn an entire new communication mode for this stuff. We're going to start to make sense of this chaotic and confusing world, these outside context problems. We're going to learn a mode of thinking that works no matter whether we have context or not. And most importantly, this is another reason we expanded it to 10 weeks, so we can form a tight-knit community who share the values of bringing love and healing and change to the world. So now a lot of us on here probably disagree on things. We probably disagree on religion and politics and science and, foreign policy and you name it. Can we all agree? I want to see a big yes in the chat. Can we all agree that the world needs love and healing and positive change? Can we agree on that at least? We can disagree on everything else. That's fine. I don't care if we disagree on anything else. Yes, lots of big yeses. If we can agree that the world needs love and healing and positive change. Ambrose, yes, love is an absolute requirement, right? If we agree the world needs love and healing, positive change, is there any limit to what we can accomplish together as a community? Is there any limit if we can agree on love and healing and positivity? No limits. No limits, no limits, no limits. Absolutely. Right? We're going to be deliberate about choosing our personal values. And your personal values don't have to be my personal values, and mine don't have to be yours. And that's okay, right? Because we're different people. And we get to choose that for ourselves. And that's what's beautiful. But the point is, I want you to take aligned action on your values, and I'm going to take aligned action on my values, and we're going to both show up authentically together. And we're not going to judge each other for it, right? We're going to learn to use our time more efficiently by making faster and better decisions. We're going to use empathy and our common values to deepen those relationships. Because even if we differ on some values, we've just established we all share the values of love and healing in the world. So we can do anything. So we're learning to solve a lot of life's problems by being the best version of ourselves, and we're reducing our wasted time and our stress. So my instruction on this, this is not a traditional college philosophy logic course. Okay. I've done those. I've been through them. This is not like that. I teach critical thinking as a tool for self-improvement and relationship building. We are going to talk about logic and everything, right? But only as a tool. And we recognize that logic and critical thinking, they're not the source of truth. They're just one pathway to truth, because there's lots of different kinds of truths out there. We teach critical thinking as an art form, not a science. Again, we do logic and fallacies and the whole thing and the reasoning and argument structure, but it's taught like an art form. And it's combined with compassionate communication and listening. And when we teach this, there's no agenda, right? I'm not trying to get you to agree with me. I don't care if you agree with me on surface issues. That's beside the point. I just want to know that we can start with love and healing and positive change. Can we start there? If we can start there, the rest of it's totally beside the point. I want you to take empowered action based on your values, even if they're different from mine. So it's a very values-based approach. So it's a lot to chew on, so we don't just throw you in the deep end. You're going to get a lot of access and help. There are pre-recorded videos, slides, worksheets, exercises to help you absorb and implement the material. And then the weekly live Q&A calls where we highlight the important points, tons of coaching and live Q&A. And then it's a safe space. It's a community. It's non-judgmental. You're going to be in there with people who disagree with you. Is that a good thing? Can we agree it's going to be a good thing to form a community with other people that disagree with you on issues? Is that a good thing? That's a good thing, right? Do you want to be stuck in your silo, in your echo chamber? Yeah, Laura, echo chamber. Yeah. You don't want to be stuck in that. So it's going to be non-judgmental, loving community as we get together on this. So when you sign up, you'll get instant access to the 20 instructional videos. As soon as you enroll, there will be at least 10 live Q&A calls over the 10 weeks of the course. Now, there may be more calls. If I get enough people enrolling in different time zones, a lot of you here are mostly North American. I'm going to have other crowds from Europe and Australia. If I can get enough people enroll, we're going to have multiple calls every week, and you can join whichever one works for you, right? Because I also wanted to spread it out. I mean, if there's too many people on one call, it's hard to give a lot of individual attention. So we'll see how many folks are able to enroll. Now, if you're a good skeptical thinker, you're allowed to not believe me. You're allowed to say, I don't know. I don't know, Ian. Ian, you're saying this is great, but I don't know if that's great. That's good skeptical thinking, right? Ian, you're saying this is great, but I don't know. Is it? I've given you some testimonials. Here are a couple more, so listen to them. Mark in Italy, he runs a restaurant. He's a musician in Rome. The modules are fantastic. Ian's approach to blending the heartfelt with the hard logic is phenomenally useful and promising for personal and societal growth. Jemiah in California. Jemiah has an amazing business where he helps people in Southern California plant vegetable gardens in their yards and sell their excess vegetables at the farmer's market to make better use of the land, right? Urban farming. Ian's course opened my eyes to the modes of negotiation in business. The course gave me more tools to use and helped me see opportunities in my daily life. I specifically learned how people use logic to confuse the public and how I can get ahead of that as a leader, right? So you're not being manipulated. Now, what it would be worth to you? What's it worth to feel power and freedom of saying, I don't know, by practicing that over and over? What's it worth to analyze the world better and faster so you're not wasting your time and with mistakes and false beliefs that you have to undo? What's it worth to understand your true values and know how you can take aligned action so you can be authentic? Don't we all want to be authentic? That's such a hard thing in today's world sometimes. What's it worth to deepen your relationships, including repairing relationships with spouses, children, and other loved ones, because now you can communicate and listen better? What's it worth to form that community with like-minded people? And again, I don't mean like-minded as we agree on everything. I mean like-minded as in we just believe in love and healing in the world. And we can work together to bring that, and we're dedicated to it. On the other hand, what would it cost you to feel like you're stuck in your beliefs and that you have to have knowledge and opinions on everything? What does it cost to waste time fixing your errors? or taking extra time thinking things through without a coherent mode of thought that works in any context? What does it cost to feel like an imposter or like you have to fit in with other people's boxes because you're not being authentic? Not a fun feeling. What does it cost to watch as valued relationships, friendships, families, and communities deteriorate because you haven't learned an effective way to listen and communicate on even the most contentious issues? So the everyday price for this course is $19.97, and the actual Q&A calls don't start till mid-September, but this is why we're here today, even though it's a month away. Everyone who was invited today means you're eligible for the super early bird discount, even though the course doesn't start till mid-September. That's why you guys are here today. A lot of my longtime fans, people who have been on my list for a long time, been following me for a long time, and a couple of my affiliates, so you're part of sort of the exclusive club who gets the early bird discount. So this week only, even though the actual launch isn't for another month, this week only, you get the early bird discount price of $597. So it's $1,400 off. So $597, and I will tell you guys, and those of you who have seen me for a while, you know I mean it when I say this. $597 is the lowest price this course will be offered at. $597 right now is the lowest price you can get in. Starting next week, the price goes up and it goes up. And I will honor that. Why? Because I'm going to honor those of you who are today and have been for the last few days been signing up for the early bird discount. The people who sign up for the early bird discount will get it, and I'm honoring that, and I'm saying the price will go up next week. Now, also as an early bird, you're going to get bonus content. So not only are you saving $1,400, you get to start learning and practicing now. Not only do you get, instant access to all of the online modules, we're going to have at least 2 bonus Q&A calls, depending on how many people sign up. There are at least 2 over the next month. So instead of 10 calls, you get 12. And you get instant access to the Facebook group where we're going to start forming that community right away. And we're going to start getting our daily tips right away and start interacting right away and doing resources, right? So you will get more content. So not only are you saving a ton of money for a lot of the longtime people on my list, right? You're going to get extra content as well. I wanted to give a lot of the longtime people on my list first crack at this, because there does get a point with a course like this. I think you can see how if the enrollment gets too high, it gets too unwieldy for me. Why? Because it's all about community and interaction and personal attention. So when we get to a certain place in enrollment, I'm going to have to cut it off because I can't handle too many people. Right? So this is why all of you who have been on my list for a while, been around for a while, my loyal customers are all getting this first crack with the early bird to give you guys the first chance to get in. So if you're interested, go to awakenmygenius.com and I will drop a link in the chat as well, because sometimes, let me see. So it's awakenmygenius.com. There should also be a direct clickable link, which I will have to grab for you. I'll grab that in a second. You can you can either scroll down and learn more, or you can show me how to enroll. Now, if you want the early bird discount, choose the full pay option and use coupon code fall early bird. Oh, sorry about that. I did have a typo. My bad. Thank you, Susan. Yeah. All right. Hang on a second. Sorry, problem with the slides there. It's a new slide deck today. Oh, no, I appreciate it, Susan. I'm an editor as well, so I have, anytime you find mistakes, let's do it. And then use the coupon code fall early bird. And I will also, let me get a direct clickable link for you guys too. And then we'll head off to any remaining questions. Where did the clickable link go? Sorry, I had it copied and pasted. And then it went away. I could grab it in a second here. You will also get a follow-up email with this, so don't worry. But if you want to do the direct clickable link now, I know it's here somewhere. All right, here we go. All right, I found it. There's the direct clickable link. You need to do that. Again, coupon code fall early bird on the full pay option. Bob, there is a payment plan normally for the regular launch next month. There will be a payment plan. If you really need a payment plan for the early bird, we can work that out with you. We can figure it out. Normally for the early birds, it's all for the full pay, right? Because that's how you get the best discount and the most savings. But if you're dedicated, if you want to be in, shoot me an email. In fact, you can just you can respond to the email that will be coming out following up this. I can also type my email in. And we can work out a payment plan if you're dedicated to be in and you really want to make sure you get the early bird. We'll figure it out because I want you to be in. Right? I want you to get the benefit of this. Thanks, Billy. It's great to see you. And Billy, you've taken this course before, yeah? I believe you were in the last time we ran it.
Yes, I'm trying to unmute myself and keep turning the camera off.
Yeah.
I need smaller fingers.
Yeah.
Yes, good counselor. I took this, I think it was in the spring, was the spring of 22. And I had just retired from working for the Navy at that point, and I was able to only attend about half the Q&A, or maybe one or two at best. But it was a fabulous experience. But now that I've joined the, how would you say, the ranks of the unemployed at my age, I'm looking forward to how you're going to approach this to deal with the times we have now. I think what the way you're talking about it and what I learned in the last time taking this, I can see how this will be more relevant in just about every sphere of life and activity that we all have.
Yeah, it's the current times, Billy. It's in fact, my wife and I had not planned on running this course again this year. But a few weeks ago, we decided we sort of had a moral imperative to do it. It's just stuff is nuts, right? And we all disagree on stuff, and that's okay. And that's great. We're supposed to disagree on things. Life would be really boring if we all believed exactly the same stuff. Right? But we have to at least have a mode of thought that we can use to communicate, to listen. Right? In fact, we're going to be learning some ways where you can, some real listening skills you guys may not have heard of. Some epistemological listening skills to learn how to listen and how to communicate better. Right? We're going to dig deep in a lot of this stuff. And finding common values. That's the whole point. A lot of the point of these listening skills is to narrow it down to, let's say you and I disagree on everything. There's got to be something we have in common. Let's figure out what that is, right? I mean, can we agree that people should not be suffering? Okay, great. Let's start there. Can we agree that it's good to love? That's better to love than not love? Well, great. Let's start there and build on that using this mode of thought, no matter what the context. So, yeah, no, thanks, Billy. Glad you're in again. Thanks, Bob. Good to hear. Donna, very good. Any other questions from anyone that I can answer?
Oh, I'll ask one.
Sure.
So it almost sounds like you're doing a little bit different slant than you did when I would have taken it before. Is that true or not?
It's the thank you, Rula, because I was gonna say I think you were in it before too.
I was in it before, yes.
Yeah, the pre-recorded content is the same, but the extra Q&A calls and the extra time, especially for the early birds, there's just going to be a lot more different slant, different learning, you know, being willing to tackle current issues in the world, more community building than before. And so it's, you know, there's still the learning, but it's more about the community building and figure out how can we become this community together? How can we get along? How can we get to know each other? How can we, you know, how can we make a real difference? Like this one's going to be much more action oriented this time.
Okay, and then it sounds like with the listening skills and that, it's a whole different focus that way
Yeah.
too.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, because I was just debating and I haven't looked at what you're charging because I know for me, money's now that I've officially well, I haven't officially retired, but I'm more in that mode.
Yeah. No,
Money's tighter.
I understand.
So,
I understand. And Rula, I can, you know, again, if we need to work out a payment plan, if you're interested in dedicated, we'll
Okay.
we'll figure that out even for the early
Okay.
breaks, right?
I,
Yeah.
I, I guess I'll just share this too because I know when I took it before, I've had a brain injury,
Mm.
which you may or may not know, but so I took it to basically because critical thinking is something that was affected with my brain injury. And so, but listening to you today versus listening to you before, I feel like, oh, maybe something's happened with my brain. I think I'm following it better. So that may influence the decision too, because
That's awesome.
I'm in a whole different place with, okay, let me really look at this critical thinking thing versus I feel like I have to do this because I know it's off. So,
Yeah, well, you know, it's you're healing and you're grounding and you're rewiring, and that's good. And I'm also just communicating it different because like anybody else
you
I
are
learn, right? I'm not communicating it today the same way that I did a year
right.
ago or 2
You're
years
not.
or 3 years
You're
ago,
not. Yeah.
because we're always learning.
Yeah. So anyway, so I'm glad I was here today. I can definitely tell you that. So, I'll
Very
have to
good.
analyze the rest of it.
Awesome. Thank you, Rula. I'm so
Yeah.
glad.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, very good. All right, any other questions or anything, or are we, Susan, yes, please.
Yeah, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I think by nature, I'm a very calm person,
Mhm.
and I have a really difficult time dealing with all of the anger
Mm.
out there, even from people that I'm very close to when nothing's really been done to provoke them, but everybody's on edge, everybody's angry. And will this help? Like, I'm calm, I can think through it. I don't have any problem saying I don't know, say it all the time.
Yeah.
But is it helpful? I end up just tuning it out because other people are not willing. Anger is their first
Mm-hmm.
response. Does this help you strategize with that?
Yeah, we are, you know, it's funny. This sounds funny. So Susan, so you guys know, Susan is not a plant. I
Yeah.
did not tell her to ask this. This is an amazing question because yes, Susan, this is literally designed for that.
Okay.
Right? It's, you know, especially if you are calm, but you're not sure how to deal with the angst and the anger and the anxiety, right? This is about like, no, I'm just going to take a step back and I'm going to listen and I'm going to ask probing questions in a loving, empathetic manner, right? To just try and get to the bottom. Billy's like, no, she's a plant. Yeah. And then Billy, yeah, sorry, you know, Susan was not a plant. I did not tell her to ask this, but Susan is such an amazing question because it's perfect. This is what we're going to be doing. This is literally what we're going to be talking about. Right. And this is, in fact, this is why I extended the course from 6 weeks to 10, and even in adding it an extra 2 weeks for the early birds like you guys, so that we have more time to dig into exactly that thing and role play it out together, even on the Q&A calls, right? You and I can get to there on the Q&A and we'll role play it out so that when it comes up in real life, it's not the first time you're encountering it. Right. So it's very good. No, thank you, Susan. I appreciate it. Tom, great question. So Tom had a question. How long do you have access to the content? So Tom, you have lifetime access to all the content. So the pre-recorded the pre-recorded educational content, you have lifetime access, and all of the Q&A calls are recorded and added to your library, and you have lifetime access to all of it, to the educational content, the Q&A calls, everything, lifetime access. And by lifetime, of course, I mean as long as I pay my internet bills, right? You know, someday, 20 years from now, if I'm not paying my bills, but I'll give you guys a warning if that happens. If I retire fully, right, and give you a chance to download everything. But you get lifetime access to the recordings of the calls, the pre-recorded educational videos, the worksheets, everything. So thank you, Tom. I appreciate that. Good question. Susan, you will be getting links and scheduling. We're working out the schedules right now. I have sort of tentative schedules, so your welcome email will kind of give you that. And then there will be, of course, especially when we get to the formal launch, you know, over the next month, we'll have these sort of informal bonus calls for all the early bird folks like yourselves. Then we get to the formal launch a month from now, where people are going to be paying much more than you guys are paying today. Then there will be a whole schedule for the whole 10 weeks and everything that comes out once I know how many people are in and everything. Kristen, very good. Oh, and Kristen, I should let you know, this is one price per household. Spouses, children, if your neighbor comes over, it's all good. It's one price per household, right? Because I'm very big. In fact, I have some families I'm looking at joining who they have like 7 kids, but I'm like, I want all your 7 kids to see this. I'm not going to charge you separately for all of it. Susan, that's funny. Spouse on the, well, may help with that, right? So yeah, one price per household. We have in the past run this course and have entire families show up on the Zoom, so that, you know, especially if you have kids, you're never too young to learn this mode of thought. It's much harder to learn this as an adult. As an adult, a lot of us are going to have to work very hard to learn this. A 10-year-old kid will pick it up like that, right? Because their brain is still developing. Tom, right now we're looking at Saturday afternoons, depending on your time zone, for the regular calls. Again, there will be additional calls each week if we get enough people signed up during the formal launch next month. So yeah, Joy, you have to unlearn how you're programmed, right? So it's hard, but if you guys have family with kids and you want the kids to show up, your kids can learn this now and they don't have to unlearn. Right? So it's such a huge advantage for them going forward. So doesn't matter how young they are. This is, you know, kids' brains are smart. 5-year-old kids are smart. They are. They're smarter than us, right? Because their brain is mush. It's not formed into concrete yet. Like our brains are at our age. A lot of us are, our brains are concrete and we have to smash up the concrete and then mix it up again. The 5-year-old kid, their brain is still mush. Really easy for them to learn. Amazon returns. Yes, absolutely. All right. Very good. Thank you so much, everyone. I love you all. So great to see you. Hope to see you in the course. Take care.